Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this Monday's Wealth Creation Show. And today we are going to look at a call to action. And what do we mean by a call to action? I know a call to action. Some of you might know that as a marketing thing, but I think we're going to take the approach on a call to action of really turning your intentions into that actually impact and actually following through with things. I think most of us should have a lot of good intentions, but we never ever act on them or follow through with them. And I think that's what we're going to try and cover today for the most part. Jim, we
You're not
spoke about
talking. You're not talking about me when I'm supposed to be packing for Spain and stuff like that. And I do it an hour before I'm due to go to the airport.
do you know, I think everybody's guilty of that, parting at the last minute and things. But do you know, we spoke about this recently in a business aspect and things, and thinking about the year ahead and having these uh, thoughts about what the achievements and what kind of I wanted to achieve and things. It's like they all sound really good, but how are you going to do that? And what's the impact? How are you going to follow through on that? And I think that's where like you need to think, right, that like a call to action. This is what you want to do. How are you going to do it? And explain how you're going to get there.
It's like reading. I'm looking for a book. It's like
Mhm.
reading. It's like reading a book. You could have a book on how to become a billionaire,
Yeah,
and the book could actually be completely factual on how to be a millionaire or how to be a billionaire, um, and it could work. But unless you do something and change this intent into impact, like you've got
yeah,
here,
yeah.
it's no use to you. It's just
It's
a
very
book.
meaningless. Yeah, I know.
Aye, it's like how to be a doctor. Like you go to university and you learn all that stuff, but unless you put it into practical practice, then you're not a doctor.
And actually practice as a doctor, then no, you're not.
Yeah,
And in
it's like you're
theory,
not a
you're a
doctor.
doctor.
You're just a theorist.
Yeah,
That's all you are. You can put doctor at the start of your name because you've got a doctorate in whatever it is,
a
but
PhD,
unless
you're
you've
not.
physically done something, then you can't really. It's quite funny because obviously I'm into diving just now,
Uh-huh.
and I have picked up on the things like because I'm an advanced paddy diver now, which I can dive to 30 meters, well 40 meters actually,
Okay.
usually 30 because after that you just get a bit doolally. You start to get what is it?
Air pressure sometimes.
I think it's hypo. You start to go hypo sometimes with the lack of oxygen, nitrogen, all the rest of it. Anyway, apart from that, let's just move on from there. I'm getting a bit detailed about diving. Yeah, I'm really enthusiastic about it. Um, I've started to notice where some of the more experienced divers are going, aye, okay, you're an advanced PADI diver, you're a scuba diver, and you're a dry suit diver, but you've only just passed the course.
Hmm.
You're not really an advanced PADI diver. You've only passed the course. That's all.
Do you know what
Um,
do you know what that reminds me of? Sorry to interrupt, but do you know when I was doing my driving lessons and I
it reminds
passed
me
my
of property investment.
yeah. Well, when I passed my driving test, and the best bit of advice my driving instructor ever gave me, I passed, and she's like, "That's great." She's like, "But you won't really become a driver until you've been driving for about 2 years.
Yeah.
That's when you
And
really
that's
learn."
the same with the diving.
And it's
That's the
just
same with
yeah,
the diving. You're no really. It's like when I spoke to Joe, who takes me out when I go out to Portugal. I says to Joe, Joe says, "How many dives you done?" I went, I'm on 22 or something like that. Really proud of myself. And how many you done? She went, oh, I lost count at 10,000. I mean, she's an instructor, but the thing is,
yeah.
I lost count at 10,000.
That's a lot of dives.
Like wow, and I'm sitting beating myself up because I'm no as good as her when I'm in the water, and I'm thinking that's because she's had 10,000
Yeah.
dives.
What did you say you'd done 22? Which if I would be quite proud of that as well, because diving's like, do you know, it's quite a thing that I'd be a wee bit hesitant about under the water and breathing and things. But anyway, so
It's listen, diving is you've got to. It's like a lot of things. It's like being an actor. You've
mhm.
got to really be passionate about what you do, because the majority of people in that don't really make any money out of it at all.
You can't just play it. You have to really be
Yeah, these
invested in it.
instructors and all the rest of it, they hardly make anything out of it unless you've got the business and you've got several businesses and you've got other people working for you. That's the only way you'll ever make any money out of it. You'll no make any money in diving because it's to a lot of them are instructors. It's like I'm embarrassed sometimes to pay what I pay for them taking me out, because I kind of tot things up in my mind and think,
Yeah.
that's the boat. That's another person's got to be here to be on the boat. The instructor's got to take me down, and they've hired me the gear. They've given me the air,
Yeah.
and it's like, and their knowledge and expertise. And I'm thinking,
I was just going to say it's time,
what
experience,
for
and
£100?
equipment. Yeah.
Like, this seems a bit, for 2 dives for £100. This seems a bit flipping heck. How could you make any money out of this? And you're right. I actually asked her, how do you make any money out of this? And you went, we didn't. We do it for the love of it. Most of us do. And so it just tells you, it just shows you how important it is. You can have a call to action on something, and you can turn your intent into impact. But I think you've got to really think about what it is you want to do then, and
Yeah.
what do you want to get out of it at the end. I think
And
that's what.
be quite clear about that. Have some clarity on what you're trying to achieve and how you're going to achieve it.
Well, look at the amount. Have you ever heard this before? I've heard it loads of times, by the way. I went to university. All right, okay. What did you do? Oh, I was doing geology, stones and everything like that, and
Yeah.
whatever that is, geology. And I went, oh, that's interesting. He says, aye, but I kind of dropped out in year 3. What for? I realised it wasn't for me.
And they only had a year to go.
Aye. And it's like, it's not anything to do with that. It's the very fact that they realised that it wasn't for them. It's like, why did you do that in the first place then?
Yeah.
I kind of felt pressured by my mum and dad.
Yeah, influenced.
I know people like that. I've been, they've done law degrees, and it's what you do now. It's like, oh, I'm teaching people to dive off the coast of BVI. It's like, all right, and you've done a law degree. But it's just because they've not really worked out their true purpose yet, or what they really want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people fall into that category. A lot of people, definitely. It's peer pressure that drives them into things that they don't really want to do.
That is something you hear quite a lot of, and it's quite an interesting thing. I don't know, I mean, you might have the answer or advice on it, but people will experience that at some point in their life when you're getting to that stage, when you leave school and you like higher education and things, and thinking about what you want to do with your life. And we are always pressured, like, what are you going to do with your life? What do you want to be? And it's like, you need to make that decision on the spot. And it's like, I don't know. So, I mean, what is the best process to go through? Or do you have to go through these experiences to then establish where you think you should be? Do you know, it's
I remember being marched into my guidance counsellor when I was like 13 and says, so what you want to do in life?
So,
what do I know?
Like a 13-year-old.
I'm still trying to work out what women are for.
Yeah, well, that's true. At that stage, like, you're trying to work out all these
why do I
different
get
things.
this feeling all the time?
And they want you to plan out your whole future in terms of your career and things.
I'm just 13. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And you're asking me to plan my future now and choose my O grades and my hires based on the principle that I'm going to be doing something for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
It's like, really?
So I think the takeaway for that is, if you're watching this and you're younger and things and don't know what you want to do, or even if you're that wee bit older and still don't know, I think that's okay. Just obviously do you, I think, is the right thing.
My best advice for the younger generation, definitely, is don't beat yourself up about school. If you get great grades and you get fantastic grades for school, and it allows you to go into university to do what you really want to do, whether it's a doctor or a solicitor or accountant or whatever it is, because you have to have these grades to get in for entry, then that's fantastic. But if you're not going on to university, are you really needing these really high grades?
Yeah.
If it's not for access to anything else, if you want to be a singer, or you want to be in the theatre, or you want to be all these different things, or you want to be an apprentice somewhere, or you want to run your own business, you want to do your own car washing business and stuff like that, it's like, do you really need all these old grades and hires? You probably do. However, if you don't pass them, is it really going to stop you?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure on that, on the education, and and I think I've seen it a lot, and social media does it as well, because everybody's ready to run onto social media and share their children's grades. So it's like this competition thing.
And I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't. And I turn around to Elaine at our wedding anniversary and stuff like that sometimes and go, well, announce it on social media. She goes, don't you dare. It's like, if I'm wanting to tell the woman in my life how much I value her and how much of a journey we've come together,
Yeah,
she's sitting right next to me.
yeah,
And I'm typing it on social media
yeah.
when
That
she's
that
sitting right next to me to
and that's
post
the
it.
reality
I'd
of
be
it.
better
Yeah,
just turning around saying, I really appreciate you, and we've had a fantastic time together, and I don't think we would ever have been as far as we are without each other.
yeah.
And these sort of things. Oh no, I'll tell you what, I'll not say it to you. I'll post it on social media and I'll tag you.
Hmm. Yeah,
Oh,
rather
that's lovely when she's sitting next to me watching telly.
that sounds crazy when you put it like that.
That's what people do,
I know, I know, I know.
and it's because I think it's because we don't like to deal with our emotions. I think it's an
Yeah.
easy way so we don't get too emotional about things. I think that's why quite a lot of people do that because they've been told to hide their emotions,
Hmm.
not to, especially men, definitely. It's like
Yeah.
flipping out. You just didn't.
You know
What are
that's
you
not.
greeting? It's like, no, my eyeballs are waiting.
Greeting. If there's anybody that's out with Scotland, greeting is crying.
Oh, it's like, oh my God, suck it up, pal. Oh
But yeah,
dear.
no, definitely, you're absolutely right. Yeah, and especially like guys and boys and things growing up, you're not meant to be emotional or anything like that. I mean, that's just like a no-no.
No,
Especially when I
it's
grew
all
up.
generations from the war, and
Yeah,
it really goes back to all that time where it was like, no, you just didn't do that if you were a guy. It's like, and the father tells the son, shows the son, demonstrates that to the son by actually no love and affection. Then the next one does it, and the next one does it, and I'm like, I'm not going to have that. I'm going to break that cycle. It's just like that's just no right as far as I'm concerned. It messes with you. It messes with your
there's a
mind
big stigma on
when
that
you're young.
attached to that. Yeah,
And yeah, and I don't think that's right to do. So hence the reason why I spend a lot of time and talk to I talk to my children,
yeah,
and spend time with them and stuff like that as well individually. Still, and they're not even children; they're adults now, like 31 and 25 and 23. So,
yeah.
but I still spend all the time I can get with them, and it's like the diving thing. If we can find something
Spend
we love to
time
do together, let's
communicating.
go on a
Yeah,
diving trip. So it's as much diving trips we can get, or as much trips somewhere else, or music festivals and stuff like that, or sporting events and all these different things. Just opportunities to be with my kids. Because I never really had that. I did have the chance when I was probably when I was working a lot when I was younger, um, and I made sure it was like sports days and stuff like that. But then I was straight back to work
hmm,
because I wanted to build something for the future, and I've done it. So that's the great thing about it, and that allows me to do that. Let's get back to the call to
yeah, yeah.
action and
Yeah,
intent to
we
impact.
digress a bit, but yeah, when we're talking about the call to action and things, and we were talking about having that clarity on, the direction you want to go and on the specifics and things. But then it's like you need to think, why does that actually all matter? So having that action, that call to action, you need to tie it to a purpose. You might have like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, right? But okay, but why are you going to do that? What's the end goal? And tie it to that purpose, and then that
Yeah,
gives you the reason to actually follow through on that and have that, and then you need to have that understanding about what you need to do then to get there. And if you've got all these things tied to each other, it'll give you that ability to change your intent with this action and really impact it and have that impact on achieving it, if
yeah,
that makes
yeah.
sense.
Definitely. Well, it's a classic example. If you want if you want to be a millionaire, you're going to have to get around a few millionaires,
Yeah.
or you're going to have to learn from a few millionaires, or you're going to have to learn from some books that they've written as well.
Hmm.
That's just a fact of life. Make sure they are though. You can always look
And
them
then
up.
and and something that and you've taught me this, Jim, over the years as well. And tying that action to purpose to that action and things as well is all very well, but still you need to have accountability. It's like, so if you don't do this, it's like tie accountability into there as well. and then you will make it really to yourself, because you could sometimes just kid yourself. I mean, let's not shy away from it. We've all done it, and we could all do it. I think if you
Well,
really
like the number of pin meetings you were going to.
yeah, well, that's what I mean. Things like that, you could say you're
It's
going to
easy
do
to
it,
let
but
that go, isn't it?
yeah, I know, and
This year I'm going to go and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do
I'm going
that,
to do
and it's
that.
like we all
Yep,
do it, and it's called New Year's resolutions.
yeah, it's the same idea. Yeah,
We do this. It's the call to action. It's the intent, but a lot of us don't follow through. I'm going to
Mhm.
lose weight. I'm going. I'm going to. I'm going to grow hair. I don't know how. It's get a hair transplant at Turkey or something like that. It's these different. It's that sort of thing. So that unless you have intent, it'll never happen unless you. Um, I typically do 3-2-1. So if you go
Right.
1-2-3, right, you're more likely to do something if you count yourself down than count yourself up.
Okay.
You know why that is? Because it's like 10, 9, 8, 7, take off.
Get the
The
countdown.
rockets. We're all conditioned like that as humans. It's a normal procedure. So if you say that, just like the fact
That
is,
go
if you
back to the
say, if,
Thunderbirds.
yeah, if you say, are you sitting comfortably? Everybody goes, oh, I'm going to hear a story.
Hmm. Yeah.
So we're all hardwired with certain
Yeah.
things in our culture in order to do that. So you can use these sort of things to 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 motivate you, to drive you to do the calls to action and accountability, and taking ownership of what you're trying to achieve uh, within a certain period of time. My
Yeah.
one for me personally, and you've got some stuff written down here about reports and that for your boss.
Hmm.
I remember I was in industry, and oh god, when I first started, it was like I used to leave it till last minute all the time, and then it was fumble, fumble, fumble about, and you were kind of just throwing everything together at the last minute. It's like this isn't working. So
No.
every time, and what I started to learn was, look, just get it done as soon as it's asked. So as soon as somebody says, right, Jim, could you do this? Could you do that? Could you do this? And I was like, okay, that's in my diary. Probably the next day or even that day, I'll run back and I'll put it all together. I'll get the bare bones out, and then I'll start to make it better and finalize it once I get nearer the time.
But at least
And
you've
then the good
done
thing is,
the
yeah, the
lines.
good thing is I add. So I'm asked to speak at the PIN meeting. Been asked to speak at the Scottish Property Podcast meeting as well in May. So I'm doing
Hmm.
that as well. But when I put together a summary of what I want to achieve, it's like what I want to talk about, and then I start to think what's the main subjects in that category I want to talk about and break it down, and then I start to think what in detail and bullet points under these subcategories, what can I talk about individually about each individual subject, which will be inspiring to the people I'm going to talk about, and will get them interacting with me as well.
Yeah.
Remember, when I do a speakers event, it's not about me lecturing somebody about what they should be doing. It's more about an interaction between myself and the audience.
And
About
sharing experience and things.
it's kind of like a coffee and a chat,
Hmm.
more than likely, and possibly a bit of feedback, and then questions and answers at the same time, and back and forward. So people feel engaged, and they're not just sitting there going, yeah, mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you're sat in a classroom,
Yeah,
kind of.
and just like flipping out. It's at the time still. It's like, oh, damn, I not go to the bus. These are the sort of things, and it really matters as a result of that. And you've got to think, why does it matter in business about
Yeah.
strategies and nominating and all the rest of it? Well,
I've tied a lot of it to business because obviously that's my experience, obviously, and what I'm dealing with and trying to implement calls to action and having that intent turn into impact. It's all to do with business and what I do day to day. But other people might have completely different versions. You know, you might have your own personal, calls to action that you want to really have
yeah.
pushed forward that are on a personal level. But I've kind of driven it in a business
So you're going
direction.
to talk about the key elements of call to action, but we'll give you a quick example about that, and you've got it
Yeah.
written down here. Why does it matter in business? Well, every corner of business, from leadership to sales, and from HR to innovation, action is the true currency of progress.
Hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
Action is the true currency of progress. A well placed call to action will drive engagement from customers, accelerate decision making and execution, unified teams in a common direction, create measurable outcomes that drive growth overall. It'll be more than a tagline or a button on the website. It'll be a deliberate statement designed to prompt an immediate response or decision. I suppose it's the difference when you think about it. It's the difference between a meeting that ends with "let's think about this" versus a meeting that ends with, well, assign next steps by 3 p.m. tomorrow.
Yeah.
So there's
That's
one's
the
not
call to action.
one's got a call to action.
3
In
o'clock
simple
tomorrow is
terms,
the call to action. Yeah.
the call to action is it takes potential and really activates it overall.
Yeah.
Why are call to actions critical then, Richard?
Yeah. I mean, they are really critical, and within businesses, some businesses could really they could fall into that trap of, excessive planning and over analysing everything without really enough execution in place, and having those clear call to action. And it's like I said, everybody's got so much good intentions in life, whatever you do. But if you're in business and you've got a team, everybody's got all these brilliant ideas and plans, and they analyse and analyse.
Everybody's
are
an
they
expert.
actually going to do something about it?
Everybody's an expert, and it's like, well, you going to do it? Oh no, I was just saying it's an idea. Well, are you going to look into it and tell me and feedback? It's like, oh, but it's like I'm a bit busy. It's like, well, shut up then and sit in the corner.
Yeah,
because I'm not doing it.
I think as well, when you've got these calls to action and things do follow through, it gets people in the right mindset, and it creates that momentum, and it pushes everybody forward, and it pushes an entire team forward in the right direction. That's just a really critical part.
Many hands make light work, don't they?
Yeah.
That's quite a good one as well, because when there is a call to action, you're right, the driving momentum, the clarifying expectations, then you tend to get a unified accountability between everybody. Everybody starts to have ownership of certain things to do. All these different things.
You do this, and people find their kind of niche about what they're good at as well. And then you all come together, and you've all got your own accountability about, right, they take care of this, they take care of this, I'll do this, and this is how we'll move things forward.
And that's why I break everything down into smaller bite-sized chunks. Because if you break everything down in smaller bite-sized chunks, then it's easier to build on that. Whereas if you do big massive, like, we've got to achieve this, and it's like, flipping it, I'm not going to achieve that. Whereas, like, I tell you what, we just need to achieve this week. That's all we need. Oh, I can achieve that. Yeah, but if you do that every week, you'll get the big goal. In my mind, it's perfectly logical, and in other people's minds, sometimes it's like, oh my God, it's overwhelming.
Yeah,
I can't do all that at once. I said to someone the other day, actually, when I was sitting with them, I said, look, I need you to do this, and I need you to do that, and I need this to be done. And they went, God, you want me to do everything? I went, wait a minute, I've only asked you to do it for 2 days.
Yeah.
And then the person that comes back continues to do that again. You're only doing it for 2 days. It was perspective, because they just thought, oh my God, I can't do this as well, as if I'm going to be doing it for the rest of their life. And it's like, no, you're only doing it for 2 days. What's the problem? Oh, I could do that for 2 days. Well, there you go then. Remember, clarity.
Yeah, and in business and things, I mean, if you've got good business strategy and things, you'll think about your year ahead and what you should be doing to achieve what you want to achieve. And sometimes that goal could maybe sometimes seem quite big when you think about it like that. But then it's like you say, break it down. What you're going to do on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, or even right down to each day. I'm going to do this each day, and if I do this each day, by the end of the week I'll be here. By the end of the month I should be here. And then each month on top of that, and then that should take you right through to a year's time. Now, I know I made that sound simple, but maybe it is that simple.
It is that simple, Richard. It's like the difficulty of this is there's the humans get in the road.
Yeah.
And our fears get in the road. That's why, I better not phone that person around. They'll be upset if I phone them right now. How do you know they're going to be upset?
Until you actually do it. You're making the decision for them.
Honestly, I have people saying that to me over the years. I've had them saying that to me. I better no phone the pet. Oh, I didn't really phone them because I knew they would be quite busy. It's like, how did you know they would be busy? Well, I just got that feeling. It's like, well, how do you know? until you phone them. Phone them and let them tell you that they're busy.
Hmm.
But and this is the point about we had this one of the mornings in one of our trainings. It's like it takes 8 calls to actually convert somebody.
I know. There
8
was like eight.
calls,
I think it
8
was
follow-ups.
on the eighth call or something. It was like 80% of people you'll get on board on the eighth time of phoning them or something like that. Whereas like on the first and second and third call, it was like hardly anybody.
That's mental to think. But then again, I'm like that. I will convert probably on the 8th call. I am
Yeah.
that perfect customer, that ideal customer that people
You
talk about.
you take that time to think about whether it's something you actually want you
Yeah,
to do.
because I I sometimes think a lot of salespeople think once you do your pitch to someone, they're actually physically going to set aside some time and actually sit and think about what you've said.
No, you need to keep reminding them.
Aye, it's
Yeah.
like, what have I got all the time in the world? I probably have, but but now it's like there's different priorities on
Yeah.
what I want to do. So it's somebody's pitched me something works already, and I'm trying to convince myself in my mind, does that actually improve what we're doing already, or is it just replacing it, or is it making it worse? And that's what I'm trying to prove. But I'm not going to sit down physically for the next 2 hours trying to prove it to myself to sell myself their product.
Yeah.
Think
Yeah.
about that.
That's their job.
That's what a lot of salespeople think. It's like they think you're going to sit down and go over all their information again and actually make a decision, and you'll only need to call them back when it's like the next time, and they'll either say yes or no, or they'll be ready. It's like, no, that's not going to happen. I've still never got round to. I looked into Spectre. That's a prospecting tool for
Yeah.
estate agents, Spectre. And I was meant to have a call with them yesterday, and our meeting overran, and I never managed to get on the Teams. You know, the person never actually phoned me and
See
never
where you
sent me
are.
an email when the Teams was meant to start.
Uh-huh.
And then I sent them an email to say that apologies are just overran, and I never got a reply. And I think they must have just
That'll
forgotten about me.
that'll be that then.
That's their first follow-up.
Yeah.
What's the likelihood I'm going to buy Spectre?
No. Falling at the first hurdle, definitely.
Yeah, because if that's what they're like as the salesman to sell me their package and get me to buy into it, then what is their customer service and their backup like? It
Mhm.
must be appalling.
And it's true what you say about the expectation of people thinking that they think that the customer's going to take time and go back over that. It's when you follow up, and it might be 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 times down the road, but when you follow up and make it so easy for them and explain it to them and easy for them to then say, okay, that's what we'll do, then
Yeah,
you'll get them because you've made it easy and laid it out in black and white to them, instead of just handing them a lot of information and expecting them to go through
absolutely.
it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's what a lot of people don't realize about why call to action is so important, and follow-ups are so important as well in
Yeah.
terms of what you're doing, and just keep following up with people until they say, look, I made a decision, I'm no wanting to, and then you follow up with them in 6 months time anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah, you put that further away, but
It's like, okay,
because
I'll
you
phone you
never
in
know,
6 months time then.
things change. Things change.
It's like,
I
yeah, because I know it's just a yes waiting to happen.
Mhm.
Especially when you think in house sales. House sales, at some point, everybody sells their house. It's
Yeah,
it's just it's a fact.
it's a natural,
It's
progression. Yeah,
like when you die, your house is getting sold. That is the point, the ultimate point of when the house gets sold.
yeah.
So you're,
Or you
I'll never
upsize or
sell, I'll never
downsize.
move. Yeah,
Yes.
you'll never move, but your house will get sold at some point in time. And if
Yeah.
I'm the person continually helping you move forward and continually helping you make decisions, then more than likely I will be the person it will be picked at some point in time, whether it's by
Yeah.
you or whether it's by an executor or anything like that, because I'm the
Mhm.
person that knows most about your journey and about your property.
Yeah.
And it's demonstrating that is probably the most important thing. But that principle applies to anything that everybody does. How you do everything is how you do anything, or vice
Mhm.
versa. How you do anything is how you do everything. We get the gist. This is
Yeah.
why it's so important. This is why for example, if I'm driving in to a village and I
Yeah.
know I've got to wait on a traffic light, and I think I've got a minute before I get there to my appointment, and it should start at 2 o'clock, and I'm sitting on 13:59. I will still call the customer, even though I'm 2 minutes round the corner, because I know 1 minute later the curtain will start twitching. They'll be going, "Where is he? Where is he? It's 2 o'clock. It's 2 o'clock."
Yeah.
And then when I arrive at 1 minute later, that 1 minute to them is half an hour. So I always phone in advance and say, "Look, I'm at the traffic lights. I'm just coming into the village. I'll be with you in 5 minutes." And they go, "Oh, that's fantastic. I'll see
So then
you
you've,
then. I'll
you've
get the
altered their
kettle on.
expectation
I'll get
about
the
where.
kettle on and everything." Because that's how I would like to be treated.
Yeah.
So that's how I treat other people, how I would like to be treated. I would expect a call if you're going to be late. My time's valuable. I'm not just here to guess when you're going to arrive.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
And that makes the difference. So this is all about making sure this actually follows forward. You've done some key elements to an effective call to action.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about them.
Hopefully we've covered a lot of the key elements. And obviously, like we spoke about clarity, and that's without being, using vague language and being really specific about what your actual intentions are, but then tying them to that purpose, tie that action to that meaningful outcome. And then people act like they act when they know that why it matters. When they've got that purpose and they think, right, okay, this is why. It gives people that more incentive to actually act on it, and it
So
places urgency on it as well.
when I look at clarity, when you go back to the first one you said,
Yeah.
avoid vague language, be specific.
Yep.
Clarity for me is, in the next 5 years, I will buy 10 properties.
Mm-hmm.
These 10 properties will be 75,000 at the most.
Yep.
And they will more than likely be 2-bedroom flats. And I know they'll rent probably for 500 to 550 a month. And I know that's where my numbers will work as a result of that.
That's
That
quite
has
clear
been
and
very
specific.
specific. And yeah, because that's where it is. And if I can't find that deal, then I have to adapt to the same sort of KPIs, return on investment, risk analysis, sensitivity analysis. What I mean by that is if overheads go up, if interest rates go up, if occupancy rate drops, that's risk analysis, sensitivity analysis to see how it affects the bottom line, and can you weather a storm if it comes along, and in any situation. That's having full clarity and not being vague about and being specific about what you're doing and how.
Could I try
Yeah.
something with you then? So you've obviously said this about these 10 properties and things, and that's you've been quite clear and specific about what you want to do. So what is the purpose in that then? Let's go through these in that scenario. What's the purpose of that?
Well, if I bought 10 properties at
you?
550, I'll actually get my spreadsheet out. I'll
Okay.
see if I can find it. Investor spreadsheet. Here we go. Working on return on investment. Here we go. Just make that. I'll maybe share this with the screen.
I was just going to say share it, yeah, and we'll go through it.
Okay. Let me just share that. Here we go. See that?
Yep.
So this is it, actually. Oh, that's the 4 million I just bought.
We'll take that out and then
10, 75, multiple dwellings, that doesn't apply. It would be, 10, actually, you would have multiple dwellings. On 10, multiple dwellings relief, your tax would be about 8,000, I would say, at 75. Your deposit would be 25%. Your interest rate just now is probably around about 6%. Your arrangement fee is probably around 1%. And your rent every month is probably 550.
yeah, because we're talking about minimum about 550 for two beds. Yeah.
Occupied 12 months of the year. The mortgage is 50. The mortgage interest is 54% of the rent. You're on. See, this isn't going to work for me I don't think so, personally. Gross yield with cash is 5.9. Gross yield with a mortgage has gone down to 5.6. That's a no-no for me straight away.
Okay.
Because if you're leveraging your money with the bank, you should be in a better position. Overheads 25%. That's cover interest, letting agent, and insurance and incidentals. But it leaves no way. There's the tax as well, 25% corporation tax. It could be 19 because if you're a lower rate payer, or 20 or something like that, I think it is. You're there. Your cash flow is still sitting. See, your profit is 13 or 14,000. Your cash flow is, when you get it, is 11,000 because you're paying the tax on it.
Yeah.
But when I look at that, I think I'm no keen on that. 2.5% net return on deposit in. Just let me check. That's 2,000. This could be the clincher here. Yeah, so 215 in, I think it is. Yep, with everything in, you're yeah, okay. It goes up to 6.5% net return on deposit.
Okay.
And gross yield, see, that's what it is. I had legal fees too high. So there you go. See how it's important just to double check these figures.
Yeah.
8.5% gross yield and 14.1. So that's a winner straight away. So
Yeah.
with the bank's money, I'm better off using their money. And so the numbers start to work now. Payback is 19 years. If I didn't touch the money and it exactly worked out like that, 6.5% return on investment. That's on the net return. That is on the profit against the
And then the
deposit.
capital appreciation.
But I've not got capital appreciation. Capital appreciation is 3.23 every year and 5 for the last 20 years. So if I look at the profit and accumulate in the capital investment, the return on investment, what I initially put in was the 215, is 354% over 20 years.
Okay.
It's all right.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good. That might work, but here we go. Sensitivity. What happens if the rent dropped because rent controls or something? 450. What would happen? Okay, I'm still all right. Still got a wee bit of profit, wee bit of cash flow. How low can I go? 400. And yeah, it's about breaking even now for cash and profit at 400. Now that probably won't happen because remember that's 10 properties at 400. So that'll be very unlikely, but I'll put it to 550. If interest rates, if I hadn't fixed it and I was maybe in a 2-year deal that's coming out, if it was up at 8%, how would that affect things? Yeah, okay, I'm still okay. If it was up at 9%, yeah, okay, it's starting to go into negative at 9. So 8.5 is probably where it is. It can go as high as that. And then I'll be breaking even in that scenario. There's always the case that you could take the 25% and take it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, 25% overheads, you can cut that and just self-manage. In a situation when it comes to that, ideally you'd use a letting agent, but if a situation comes to that, then you might self-manage to get over that wee hurdle.
Yeah, you've always got that option if you need to, of course.
Yeah, the cash flow. That's the good thing about that. You get somebody else to look after it in the beginning, and you've got that last resort just in case if it all goes sour. You've got a buffer.
Yeah, and then occupancy
or a buffet. Warren
A
Buffett. Warren Buffett.
Warren
Buffer. So if it was 9 months occupied for every single property, in other words, 3 months for every single property that didn't get any rent, you're about breaking even at 9 months. 8 months, you're
which I think is a good tolerance.
Yeah, that's all right. 9 months is that's 75%, is it no? 75, 9 divided by 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, 75% occupancy. That'll never happen, by the way. You'll
No.
have a lot more than that because remember, this is me saying 10 of the properties will be empty for 3 months every single year.
The likelihood that all of these been empty for 3 months to the year at some point.
But it gives you huge tolerance. So it does work in that scenario. I don't save that and we'll close that up. So you can see that scenario there. And so that works. And that's an extra 10 grand at the bottom if it worked out how it should work out. So if that was an extra 10 grand I was getting cash in my hand every single year, what would be the purpose of that then? What would it do for me? Well, I tell you what, has anybody else had an extra 10 grand in their hand every year as a result? Probably not. So an extra 10 grand, what would you do with that? Divided by 12, an extra 800 quid a month. Hey, could have a nice holiday, a couple of holidays a year on that money. I could invest it, reinvest it. 10,000 a year divided by 0.75 would get me, 10,000 divided by 0.25, 40,000. I could buy a flat if I can get one for 40,000. You know, you never have one that you could renovate or something like that. If I wait a couple of years, I could buy another one at 75.
Yeah.
When you think about that logic.
As well as obviously these added values things, it also adds to, in your case, to your portfolio, which is all part of this. legacy and
the purpose is though, the tie it to a meaningful outcome. If you start to build, could it set you free one day?
Mhm.
If you were doing a part-time job and you were able to buy 10 properties and you had the money to do that with a deposit, you could
Could you
end up setting
retire
yourself free.
early? Yeah.
Aye, if you've got 215 grand and you could have bought 10 properties in that situation, that's what that was, 215 grand in.
Yeah.
So 215 grand would have got you 10 properties, would have generated 10%, 10,000 every single year in cash for you. A wee bit more in profit, obviously, but cash is what's in your hand. Cash flow's king at the end of the day. What would it do for you? You'd be able to go on holidays, you'd be able to relax, you might be able to give it your part-time job, you might be able to work part-time instead of full-time, you might be able to put your kids through university, you might be able to pay the rent for their property, possibly, you might be able to pay for something you're needing done, you may be needing your knee done, doctors are taking ages, hospitals you're on the list for a year from now. It's like, I'll tell you what, I'll just go to Fleming, Professor Mackay, and Professor Mackay will do it for £4,000. I know that because I did it.
Yeah.
So job done, and you'll get back to running quicker, or you'll get back to doing what you're wanting to do, and you'll be able to walk, and your health, and all the rest of it. So that is the purpose you tie
There's a
it
lot
to.
of purpose in there.
Yeah. Oh, tell you what, I'll buy a new car, or a decent second-hand car
Mhm.
for 10 grand, or I'll wait a year and a half and I'll do that. It's all these different things that it could be to you.
Yeah.
You're going to take out in dividends, by the way, because if you've got a limited company like what I had there, you'll take that in dividends. You'll only be taxed at
Lesser tax.
8.75. So I
Yeah.
was actually wrong. If it's your only income, you'll not be taxed at all. It'll be in your personal allowance. It'll be
Yeah.
tax free, so that
Still
you
go
won't
under
pay
your
the
line.
tax on it. So the 10 grand has now become 13 grand. £1,000 a month in your hand.
Yep.
Wow. What would you do with that? So that's the sort of purpose, the meaningful outcomes that you need to do it. This is where you came to the next one, where you said urgency, give it a time frame.
Because
You know
you're
what I
saying in the
thought?
next year, but why in the next year? Is there a reason for that, or
For the next year of what?
you're saying obviously that like the time frame and doing this, and
Oh,
you're
I just
saying
make things up and say, oh, in the next year I could maybe buy 10 properties. And then I go, oh, shit, where am I going to get the money? That's like, just for the sake of it, just set
yeah,
myself a challenge. Like for I said, I actually didn't say this year, but in my mind, I've got next May, I want to do the Everest ultramarathon, 42
right.
miles on Everest, running.
I was just going to say, is that running on Everest? So you're not just climbing it, you're running on it now.
Running on
That's that
Everest.
that's a
Admittedly,
challenge.
base camp at 5,500 metres round about there, 42 kilometres, 42 miles. A lot of people nobody does that. I mean,
That's
this
not a
is
challenge because the air's still a lot thinner at that level.
of course it is. It's a
Yeah,
third of what you would normally get.
yeah,
So that's the sort of things you've got to think about. But what I'm saying is time frame. That's why urgency drives prioritization.
yeah.
It starts to make you think about what you need to do. Hence the reason why I'm training all the time. Hence the reason why I do strength and conditioning every other day for an hour. And then I still do my training on top of that. So I'm training about 10 times a week now on different things. 10 times a week because I want to do an ultra on
Hmm.
Everest and I want to do it next May. So see how I've given it a meaningful outcome. I've given it a time frame and it's obviously made me more urgent in my prioritization about what I need to do in order to get there. And that's what it is. And for me, it was like I want a 40-year-old. I want to retire. I
Yeah,
want to be able to walk away from my job and never need to work ever again at 40-year-old. That's what I wanted. So that gave me urgency because I needed to do it before then. I did it at 38.
yeah.
I wanted to be a financial director, and I says I wanted to be a financial director or a director of a company
Hmm.
before I was 30. And that was a standing start when you think
Yeah,
about it. In my 20s, when I went back to college and became a trainee accountant, but I wanted to be a company director, a financial director, or a managing director of a company. Not
right.
just like, oh, I could buy a company in Company's House and I could call myself a managing director with
Yeah.
nothing. How much are you turning over? Well, nothing actually, but I'm still a managing director. So a company, I mean, I was financial director at a company and I think it was like 2 or 3 million it was turning over. I mean,
Hmm.
I worked in a lot of these companies that are 2 or 3 million, and it was great because you got involved in everything,
Yeah.
and that was the great thing about it. You were the key management team, and it was never a boring day. It was never a mundane thing. And that's what I loved about manufacturing and about being in smaller companies for that reason. But the time frames, that's why I put it on it. And that's why I did it at 38 rather than 40, because I put urgency on it. But it was like, this is all formulated. You saw it in that, what I did there the now. It's like, this is a no-brainer. If you just follow that same pattern, that's the income you get out of it. And in theory, in practicality, it doesn't. It's sometimes you get grenades thrown in now and again about it's just life as it happens. And that's what happens. But I tell you what, the quicker I can get this and acquire these properties, and the quicker I can put them together, the quicker I can get the funding, is the quicker I can get retired. Or retirement isn't about the only thing that stops you retiring is money.
Yeah,
it's not 67 like the government says. You can retire anytime you want if you have the money.
Yeah,
and retirement's not about giving up.
You're going to be sitting till you're 60 odds.
Yeah, retirement's not about giving up. It's about enjoying life. It's about enjoying what you want. Oh, I can enjoy that and work as well. It's like, yeah, fill your boots if that's what you want to do. But I could just jump on a plane anytime I want. Make no difference. Explore in the world. And that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to be owned and controlled by someone else as well. And that's why it was more important to me for that. And ownership, it was all down to me.
Taking ownership of what you...
Yeah, taking ownership, making it clear who's responsible. If it is to be, it's up to me.
Yeah.
And I used to chant that to myself. If it is to be, it's up to me. Every day and every way I'm getting better and better. These are all the different things that you want to do when you give yourself a call to action. And disciplining yourself. Discipline is it's what keeps you going when motivation disappears.
Yeah.
The discipline to do it. The days that you just don't want to do it. The great thing I used to always remember to myself, and I've told you about this before, it's like when you're ill and you can't do it anymore, just do it. Because no one else is doing that.
Yeah.
So you're ahead of them straight away just by doing that. And it's things like working on Christmas Day. It's like, that's the type of things I used to do. Sit in the room and do budgets on Christmas Day and stuff like that. Christmas Eve, Christmas holidays. And folk will go, I would never do that. What about your family? Yeah, family didn't know I was doing it. I was still there for them. But I was doing that because I knew nobody else would do it.
And you were doing something different and doing something more than what anybody else was doing
at
that time.
If you want the rewards in life, you're going to have to pay a price. And what price you pay, you'll determine that yourself by your actions or by your inactions.
Yeah.
And that's
and you're absolutely right. And it's like we talk about the call to action, and but on the flip side, it's the inactions that result in things not following through, and they're not your intent not having that impact. And then I was going to go into we'll talk about like why some calls to action do actually fail, and right off there at the beginning. And
you could just make it New Year's resolutions, can't you?
And then people are a bit blasé and a bit.
It's the same thing, actually. The things that you've written down here is exactly why New Year's resolutions fail. So if anybody's like they keep failing on the New Year's resolution, this is the reason why.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, and we spoke about being vague. Avoiding being like vague language and things and being quite clear, but being too vague and all right, well, okay, we'll try and work on that, or you give me a row for saying that. All right, I'll try and do that, and it's like I say it without even thinking, and you're like, no, you won't. You're not going to try. You're going to, and I'm like, yeah, okay. And a lot of people fall into that trap, being very vague and not being precise. And it's like, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. Like, oh, we'll give that a try, and maybe we could try this, and. You see the difference there? It's like, and a lot of people fall into that trap.
No follow-ups, no progress tracking, nothing, no accountability, lack of alignment. They're not in the zone. I always talk about being in the zone. You know when you're in the zone because it's like everything you do turns to gold. It's like you've got the Midas touch. And I've been in the zone quite a few times. In a state agency and property investment as well right now as well, definitely in the zone. So I've been in the zone quite a lot. And in the zone when the stock market tanked, It's like, yeah, beauty. As the stock market's going down, I'm like, buy.
Yeah.
And then 5 days later, the stock market's gone back up. Woohoo!
Yeah. So it's having that knowledge and knowing and taking that action at the right time, and it's paid dividends to you.
Somebody actually said, I read a blog the other day about Richard Branson, and Richard actually says, if you're not prepared to lose 100 million, then you'll never be a billionaire.
That's an interesting thing to say.
Well, because what skin in the game have you got?
Yeah.
What have you, how are you going to you'll have to do something. You have to put some investment into something in order to
Do
produce
something
that result.
drastic in order to
Yeah.
get to that
So
point.
if you're not prepared to lose, then you'll
You're never
never
gonna gain.
achieve anything.
Yeah.
It's like what I say. Show me somebody it's never failed, and I'll show you somebody that's never succeeded.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because everybody fails. Even I fail. I've failed on a few property investments, definitely. I know that. And I've failed on a few business ventures, definitely know that as well. And I've failed in other things as well. It's like it's just part of the process. The failure brings you closer to success.
Hmm.
You just make sure you minimize the downside of the failure. And you take it in your stride and you don't beat yourself up and you go, well, okay, that didn't work. And I think that was Virgin Orbit. He lost 100 million.
Yeah. But then, in the grand scheme of things, he's not going to dwell on that too much and let it bother him because look where he is now. And it's the
He's
same
been
like
in
you're
the top. He's been in the top 10 billionaires of UK for a long time.
Yeah.
Since he started, more or less.
Yeah, and I mean, to us that might seem like such a big, massive loss and failure, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not. And then you're saying, like, obviously, you've had your own business ventures and investments and things that didn't work out, but I bet you never even think about them really because they're
I
just part
don't,
of the
but it's
journey.
like
They're just part of the journey. Yeah.
I think on the principle that if I lost it all tomorrow, I would just keep going and just do the same thing all over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's a formula for success. It works. You just keep doing it again. I've known fund managers lose 500 million in a year, and then 2 years later they've got a fund of 600 million again. It's like, what?
Because they
How?
know what to do to get it back. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it's mental. It's it beggars it just beggars belief. And when this was about 10 years ago I met this guy. Well, 15 years ago actually. It was 2010, 2009. But he talked about it. It's like, I lost 500 million, then 2 years later I had 600 million again. And then I lost that. And then, a year later I had 500 million again. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
what? It's comprehending that. But then when you think about it, all he's doing is he's taking the smaller decisions that we would make just at a bigger level.
On a bigger scale.
So
Yeah.
where we would lose 10,000, he would lose 100 million. But if we would win 10,000, he would win 100 million.
Mm-hmm.
So see how that is. But when I talk about win and lose, I'm not talking about betting. I'm talking about clear strategies. I'm talking about what we talk about in here, the call to action and understanding what we're doing,
Yeah.
and
Achieving things.
using it in the right way in order to generate that. So that's the thing. We talked. So the alignment is clearly important here, but in the early days, here's what happens in the early days. Don't overcomplicate it when you begin. I'll guarantee you, every single business that started out is not the same as it is today when it started out.
They'll have started out thinking like, we'll do this and we'll do this and we'll do this, and it's like, but are we actually going to do any of this?
Well, so Sony started off as selling rice cookers.
No, I remember you told me that, and I'm like, really?
Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway, was actually a furniture reseller when it started out. Now it's the biggest fund in the world, owned by Buffett, which is one of the richest men in the world.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So when they started, completely different. They just pivoted into something else. That's all. And that for me tells me everything about simplicity in the beginning, and then see what happens and see where it takes you, and be flexible enough and not rigid enough. it's classic. You see the rigidity in, if you've ever watched The Apprentice, how people fail in their task, and Lord Sugar says, if you were to do it all again, would you do it differently? And the ones that get fired are the ones that go, no, I would do exactly
No,
the same. I'm sticking by my principles.
just do the same thing again and fail again. Yeah.
As if it's honourable. And it's a huge weakness, as if it's honourable. They're like, oh, I'm sticking by my principles. Or Lord Sugar will see the honourability and the honour in that. It's like, no, you're just
You're
throwing
going to fail
yourself under the
again.
bus again by saying you'll accept the fact and you'll do exactly the same thing and fail again as well, because it'll not succeed. It's when people say and take it on the chin and go, yeah, I would do it differently the next time. I would probably do this and I'd probably do that. And you go, yeah, okay, good. You're a strategist. You're an entrepreneur. You
You've taken
think
your failure on board.
differently. Yeah, you're willing to learn. That's the difference. So the remedy, the simplicity, the structure, and a shared understanding, I would say, definitely overall.
Yeah. Yeah, I think as well when we talk about the calls to action and following through and things, consistency is such a big part of that. And consistency in terms of, do you know, like if we talk about business and if you do meetings and daily meetings or weekly meetings and things, they always end them with, do you know, actions. Do you know, always be consistent to think, right, this is what we've spoke about today. Like you were saying earlier, Jim, we'll action this by 3 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah.
Do you know, and always be consistent and have these things in place. Or then you're just having a meetings for a meeting's sake type thing. There's no purpose in them.
Time.
Yeah.
That's called a committee. That's called a golf club committee.
Mm-hmm.
Because I used to go down to I was in their committee for like 6 months, and I thought, I'm just no having it anymore. I'm done. Because we used to get down there, and I went, you mean to say I've taken time out with my family and everything like that to sit here in the room, and you guys have still not made a decision about anything?
Mm-hmm.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. And this is why I have a power team round about me. So every meeting ends with an action. So I know exactly what everybody's meant to do. So I'm like, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing this. When are you doing it by? I need it by this, I need it by that. And it's the same with property investment, with my solicitors, with my bank, and all the rest of it. I mean, we put that deal together for these 23 properties, and literally, I think it was February, I got the go ahead, and 2nd of April we were done.
Yeah, and it went through.
February for the 2nd of April, done. 1.6, something like that. Mil.
Yeah. And I remember you saying to me the 2nd of April, and I thought, will you be able to do that? And yeah, well, I did.
2.5 actually million, because I got a better deal when an existing loan I had with them. They actually wound that up and rolled it in, and I got a better interest rate again. So they allowed me to do that, which was good. So I'll be able to bring in 5-year fixed rate deal, which was great. Gives me certainty. But see how I did that, and every you've got here every initiative ends with ownership, and it's my responsibility, their responsibility, and then the action process becomes the habit and not the exception. So you always go into something and say, right, what have we got to do out of this? And
this is what we're going to do. This is when we're going to do it by.
We've just been busy fools talking for the sake of talking.
Yeah, and the meetings for meetings' sake thing. And there's a lot of businesses that will do it, and it's really unproductive time unless you're actually taking action from it, discussing what needs done, when it's going to be done, who's going to do it, who's going to take ownership of what they're doing it, and what the next steps will be. You need all these things, and that's when, and I've wrote down, and we'll round up and do final thoughts and things. But I really like this final thought, and that's why I wrote it down. And it's like, you don't just communicate, you activate things. Because it's all very well having discussions. You could sit and have a discussion all day without actually having an action plan at the end of it and following through with that.
Well, it's the ideas that spark innovation, and the action fuels the process.
Yeah. And I think that relates to whether you're, a CEO of a company, whether you're just a team leader, whether you're, a project contributor, or challenge yourself to lead with the message and when you're in meetings and when you're being quite clear about the next steps and things to people, and ask all these questions like, what do we need to do next, and why does that actually matter, and who's going to be responsible, and more importantly, when are we going to do this?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as I said, the 2nd April was essential because the critical deadline was the end of the tax year,
Yeah.
which is the 5th April. So
Yeah, no, you
I
were
said to
like
them
2
quite
days
clearly,
out.
this job has to be done, or we're not doing this deal. We're not doing this deal if it's not done by then. And I tell you what, my solicitor was absolutely fantastic. She was out of the trap straight away before I even finished the
Yeah,
sentence.
yeah, she
Right,
was good.
give me all the properties. I'll get all the titles together. I'll get everything in place. I'll set everything up. Who's this? Who's the standard security lawyer? Who's the bank that you're using? Who's this? And she knew the whole process. That's the
Yeah,
whole thing. It's like it's having that power team. It understands exactly the remit it's in thing and the task that is at hand and the how to implement it in the most effective way. That is the key strategy and why you have that call to action overall.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And that, and when you've got that all in place, things work like a well-oiled machine.
Yep.
And when you implement that consistency and you consistently include a call to action, you move from that being like simply informing kind of stage to really inspiring and mobilizing things forward. And I've wrote at the end here, and I think it's really relevant to let's stop circling around decisions and actually make movement and move forward.
But who's going to do it? That's the thing. Who's going to actually, if anybody's watching or tuning in, it's like,
Yeah,
are you going to do this?
yeah,
What is it you're going to do? When are you going to do it by? And who's going to be involved? And what's the actions? Who you're delegating to? All these different things you've got to think about. But you have to start somewhere. And now is always the right time.
now is the time. Yeah, definitely. Great. I think we'll end on that, Jim, and that was really good. Thanks for obviously all the insights, and I hope everybody watching kind of resonated with what we're trying to get across there. Is now is the time, I think, and it's a good place to finish. But yeah, that was the call to action, and hopefully you found that helpful. If you're watching on the rerun, jump in the comments, guys. We will come back to you. And until next time, Jim and I will see you on the Wealth Creation Show next Monday, 12:30, as usual. See you
Bye
later.
for now.